Good morning, Bucknutters, and welcome into the Morning Five on Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm joined by the People's Champ, Matt Baxendale. First of all, those wondering about the intro song, it's called Buckeye Swag, and it's perhaps the best tune ever. Kudos to the best damn band in the land for coming up with that one almost 3 years ago. It's become an instant classic. We get questions all the time about what is that song, so it's called Buckeye Swag. Okay, moving on. Bax, it is huge that Torrance Gibson says he's coming up for Friday Night Lights. You and I are both skeptical about the Buckeyes' chances of landing Gibson, at least recently, but things seem to have changed drastically in the last couple of weeks, and now looks like Ohio State might be the favorite to land him. Your thoughts?
All right, Torrance Gibson in 1 second. First of all, Buckeye, best damn band in the land at the Ohio State University of Buckeye Swag. Man, is that better than listening to that school up north's terrible band play Crazy Train for the 14th time. Anyways, back to Torrance Gibson. I have to say, you and I absolutely thought there was zero chance of him being a Buckeye. He was your quintessential recruiting diva who was eventually going to end up in the South, and everyone knew it. But something has changed in his recruitment. Some people think it's that Torrance Gibson has finally accepted the fact that he's probably going to play some wide receiver in college and have a chance to rep at quarterback. Maybe it's the fact that whenever he was really highly considering Auburn, the rumor is Auburn stopped talking to him. Maybe that woke him up and he realized he was going down the wrong path. When Ohio State and Auburn, his purported two favorites, weren't even returning his calls at one point. There's a lot of things that could be why Torrance Gibson's attitude towards Ohio State has changed. What we know for a fact, though, because that's all speculation, is that Torrance Gibson is going to be at Friday Night Lights. From what I understand, he's driving from Fort Lauderdale, which is like a 20-hour drive. That's insane. Right. I mean, good heavens. It's cheaper to pay for the flight than the gas, much less your time. If that doesn't show interest, serious interest, because who would put themselves in a car for 20 hours if they weren't expecting a payoff at the end of it? Then I don't know what does. Torrance Gibson, if and when he appears on Ohio State's campus at Friday Night Lights, when you, me, Alex, the Steves, Bill, when everyone's there watching it at Friday Night Lights, when we see Torrance Gibson on the field at the Horseshoe, I will officially believe we're back in his recruitment. But again, it's a 20-hour drive, so, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's what I should be saying. Well, Torrance Gibson fools me twice, but he's done.
Yeah, it's tough sledding driving from Ohio to the Florida Panhandle, which I've done many times. I've been down to the Hillbilly Riviera, as Mr. Bucknuts calls it, Destin, Fort Walton, many times. My parents started the trend, as they like to say, in the early 90s of Ohio residents going down to Destin, Fort Walton area. And again, Mr. Bucknuts loves to call it the Hillbilly Riviera. I made that trip many times. I'm thinking I will never drive any further than that for a family vacation.
You know what's crazy, Dave?
Fort Lauderdale? Are you
Fort Lauderdale?
It's one thing to drive to, yeah, exactly. It's one thing to drive to the Panhandle. Are you kidding me? I would never drive to the Miami area, which is, Fort Lauderdale is very close to Miami. Are you kidding me? As you so eloquently put it, Bax, if this doesn't show that Torrance Gibson is not just interested in Ohio State, but highly interested, nothing will. So we'll see what happens, but it's great news. I still want to see him actually step foot in the Horseshoe before I believe he's here, but he's telling our Bill Kurlick that he's going to be here, so I believe him for now. Moving on, Damien Harris, not coming to Friday Night Lights, but we knew that. More importantly, not going to Michigan's barbecue on Sunday. I know you're going to be upset you're going to miss the barbecue, Bax. What do you make of the Harris recruitment? I think it's a two-team race between Ohio State and Kentucky, and I think the Buckeyes will win out in the end. What say thee?
It's pretty simple here for me. First of all, of all the things in life I might want to do at Brady Hoke, which is not many, eating ribs may be one of them, because I figure the guy's got to have some taste in barbecue after you see all the food. Right?
Exactly. I bet he knows his stuff when it comes to some baby back ribs.
Whenever Michigan fires Brady Hoke, I can tell you right now, that guy is going to be a great defensive line coach at the University of Memphis because the barbecue will suit him perfectly. But that said, back to Damien Harris, let me say this about Damien Harris here. Ohio State and Kentucky are his two choices. I don't think there's anybody else who's even in the discussion right now. And for me, look, Kentucky's a nice story under Mark Stoops. He's doing a great job keeping kids at home. He's doing a great job with Kentucky. I have to give him credit, too. He's rated Ohio, and that's something I never thought I'd see Kentucky being good at football, recruiting well at football. But Kentucky compared to Ohio State is like going to the prom with the prom queen and going to the prom with your mom. Let's be real here. Damien Harris also has all the relationships with Ohio State. Damien Harris is extraordinarily likely to be a Buckeye. Mark Stoops can pull at his heartstrings in his home state all he wants. The truth of the matter is this guy is very highly likely to be a Buckeye. And until I see something that drastically changes the way we look at Damien Harris, and correct me if you don't feel the same way, Dave, I have to think this guy is just a Buckeye whenever he decides he's ready to announce. That's simple.
Ohio State has the 6th best odds to win the national championship, according to sportsbook Bovada in Vegas. Buckeyes have 12-1 odds backs. They trail Florida State and Alabama, who are tied for first at 7-2 odds. Buckeyes also trail Oregon 7-1 odds, Oklahoma 9-1, and Auburn 10-1. I mean, this sounds almost about right to me. I'd put OSU in the top 4. But, the bottom line is Ohio State is right in the running. 4 teams are going to make the inaugural national playoff, and the Buckeyes are going to be right there in the running. What are your thoughts about the people who do this for a living, putting the Buckeyes 6th?
Well, their money's on the line, so you know they're actually giving you the real answer. I believe Colin Cowherd, friend of Bucknuts, I should add, Colin Cowherd, always says the way that you should really look at college football rankings is what the Vegas rankings say in terms of teams, because they're the ones who are putting hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on the line in the sports book every week, putting lines on these games. Oregon and Auburn, to me, is a little laughable. I think that's recent history. If Auburn sniffs the playoffs, I'll be shocked. Oregon crashes and burns in big games, though I wouldn't put it past their flash and pizzazz getting them into the playoff, depending on how the Pac-12 goes this year. But let's face it, this is different from past years. It's not where, oh my gosh, Ohio State started the year number 1 and ended up falling to 4th without losing. Who gives a crap anymore? Because if you get into the top 4 teams, you're in the playoff, and then we see who wins it on the field. This is the first time in college football we can literally say, I don't care about preseason polls, because you're going to have a committee of very smart men and women who are going to be making the decision on the 4 best teams in the country at the end of the year. Ohio State having the odds of being the national champion, top 4, top 5 sounds right to me. I certainly wouldn't say the Buckeyes are a bad bet either with everything they have coming back and the way their schedule sets up. But, let's be real at this point. All that matters is getting into that playoff. From there, it's a roll of the dice. And you know what? Everybody wants – this is a side note, by the way. There's a lot of people who keep talking about how the SEC is automatically going to get 2 teams into the playoffs. Oh, my goodness, the SEC is going to dominate the playoff, too, just like they've dominated recently. Well, that's false. If you look back at history here, and I'm going to have an item on this in the bucket, spoiler alert this weekend, but if you look back, the SEC throughout the history of the BCS, going back to Ohio State's 2002 championship, would have only had 3, maybe 4 years, depending on the polls you used, where they would have gotten 2 teams into the Final Four, which is just as many as the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Pac-10/12. So, playoff, cannot wait. Fascinated to watch it this year.
On the site today, we'll have J-Book's wildly popular column, Outside Columbus. We'll get that posted around 10 a.m. We'll, of course, have the Daily Boarding House, which will include the inside scoop about Torrance Gibson's recruitment and what fans can expect to happen this weekend as far as Gibson is concerned. That's for subscribers only, so if you're not a subscriber, give our 30-day free trial a test drive. Thanks to the People's Champ Matt Baxendale. Take it away, best damn band in the land.